call of the Hawks can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday, hump day to those who celebrate. Welcome into the show. Oh, man, this one feels a little bit different, doesn't it? Finally. I mean, let's think about how we started this yesterday. There's been a lot that's gone on since our last morning episode of the show. But what do we say? We were really hoping for a Monday fun day. Didn't happen. Could we get a Tuesday news day? Yeah, I'll say 3 episodes of the Pod at the Palace yesterday. We had our morning show. We had the 2 commitments. Yeah, I'd say it was a Tuesday news day. With that being said, we're going to have a little bit of a shorter episode here on Wednesday morning. Listen, the show must go on. No doubt about it. Well, let's not get crazy here, okay? A couple big-time moves. Arkansas, they got active, right? Shout out to Cal. He was like the Undertaker. You know, everybody kind of left him for dead. Does he have a pulse? Poking him with the stick? You know, do something. Is this thing on? What's happening here? He rose up, solidified the front court. Nice additions. Malik Ewan, Nick Pringle. We've talked about it a lot. If you want to hear about all that, run it back to the 2 episodes we put out yesterday. Andrew and I hopped on, did some live reaction, got into the chat. It was a lot of fun. Some good information there. Big time stuff for the Razorbacks. All of a sudden, I mean, it has you feeling quite a bit better about where this thing is headed, doesn't it? I mean, I know I feel pretty good about it. Heck of a lot better than I did when you caught me in front of this microphone at 6 o'clock yesterday morning. Things are taking shape, right? And, you know, at this point, I see 10 scholarship pieces for Arkansas, but 8 of which who profile as rotation guys for the Razorbacks. I think that is, of course, operating under the assumption that, you know, the Razorbacks return all 4 of their holdovers: DJ Wagner, Carter Knox, Billy Richmond, Trevin Brazile. But what's next? Right? That's the easy question. Had our fun, slept on it. Cool. What now? That's what everyone wants to know, right? Well, as currently constructed, I think that we're looking at 3 or so additions left to be made for Arkansas here. Cal wanted to go deeper for next season. They were 9 deep last year. 11 is the number I've continued to hear. And I think you got 8 guys that you can really count on for the rotation now. So that's my math, in case you were wondering. And we'll start digging into intel and trying to narrow down for sure targets and everything like that over the course of the next day or 2 here. I think we're going to have a little bit of time. Could be seeing some visit action, though, heating up here potentially soon. And we'll be on the lookout for that. Very much making sure we confirm it also. But what I wanted to do today, since we're going a little bit shorter, is just identify a few of the remaining needs, the things that really stand out, and then just list several guys off the top who could fill them. And it's not, oh, Arkansas's for sure in on this guy. Oh, they're zeroing in on him. They're targeting him. They're making him push. No, not necessarily that, but kind of like we did at the beginning of portal season, because this is a good opportunity to reset. But let's throw out a bunch of names that make sense. That way, if and when Arkansas becomes connected, we can always double back to this and say, oh, yeah, Curtis talked about that guy. Trying to stay ahead of things a little bit. Before we do, again, since it's a little bit of a shorter show today, shout outs to the sponsors right here, right now, for supporting the cause, being awesome, keeping me motivated to do this every day when it felt like literally nothing at all was happening. So let's knock it out. The Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas, they are the official sponsor of the Pod at the Palace here during transfer portal season. We certainly appreciate them. You guys know the drill, right? You need glasses or contacts, go see them. You ready to get rid of them? Go see them, right? They can take care of you. They have all the boxes checked, right? Qualified, active, well-known, reputable with their physicians there. Yep, sure. That's all a thing. No doubt about it. No questions. You don't have to sweat it. But then they also have that bedside manner. They make you feel right at home. Good people make you feel comfortable. It's never fun to go to the eye. It's never fun to go to any doctor, right? But if you go check out the folks at the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas, they're going to make you feel good. They got a couple really cool things going on. They offer that custom cataract surgery And then they also offer that custom refractive lens exchange surgery right there inside their clinic location in Fayetteville. Remember that RLE, that's for folks 40 years or older who are starting to struggle. They might have that near vision going on. They're desperate. And I might be there in a few years to just get rid of the glasses. Don't want to wear the contacts. Don't want to deal with it, but you don't qualify for LASIK. So you're stuck. You're like, what do I do? Well, this might be an answer for you. So if you think you might want to qualify, if you want to check it out, you can get a free screening done. First of all, at the Eye Center of Northwest Arkansas, give them a call. Schedule an appointment. Why not? Come check them out. 479-442-2020 or hop on the website and check out more. Tons of info on their website. It's a good one. The Eye Center Northwest Arkansas. That's www.eyecenternwa.com for more. And then also we want to shout out our friends over at Basis Health. What a hell of a day for a vibe check. All right. And that's the segment that Basis Health sponsors. Vibe check past, vibes high. Would we agree with all that there? You guys know the drill here. They're innovative. It's a little bit different. Nobody has time to make a doctor's appointment. Nobody wants to go sit in a doctor's office. Why not just have the doctor come to you? That's exactly what's going on over at Basis Health, changing the way healthcare is delivered by providing mobile medical visits at the comfort of your home. Have you needed some of these things dealing with portal season so far? Urgent care, primary care, IV hydration. Come check my vitals, get my blood pressure, a little bit of everything. They've got you covered. They're here when you need them the most. Learn more at basishealth.org today. Okay. Now let's get into the to the meat and potatoes here. Let's talk about some things, have a little bit of fun. Let's actually start with, and again, we're just want to kind of go through needs, like what we think Arkansas is going to identify, what we think could set this roster over the top, and then throw some names out there. And let's actually start with something that I'm anticipating Arkansas is going to attempt to do, that they're going to look into doing, and that's making one more big splash. Because I think Arkansas will be in the market here to make one more big-time impact addition to the rotation, which is a perfect way for us to get into our heavy hitter segment presented by HD Roofing and Construction. And you guys know the drill there. When storms hit unexpectedly, give them a call. HD Roofing. They'll give you that peace of mind with a free inspection. When you choose HD Roofing, you know you can rely on all the important things: professionalism, top quality materials, and expert installation for all your roofing needs. Learn more at hdarkansas.com today. Our heavy hitters are the big fish, folks, that are here in the transfer portal right now. We've talked about it. Where could Arkansas add an impact piece if they did the things we thought that they were going to do, which is add these two big men? And listen, those are impact pieces. Malik Ewan is a splash. But what did I say? I'm not backing off of it now just because he committed. I don't think that Malik Ewan can be the biggest splash that Arkansas makes during portal season if you're serious about that Final Four contention. And that's not a knock on him. He's a hell of a player. He's the best big left in the portal. Nick Pringle, very, very underrated for what he brings to the table. But I think they need to, and I think they will do more to solidify this thing and really try to set themselves up, be primed to make a run here. Well, where would that piece fit? Because you got returners. You got a couple McDonald's All-Americans in the backcourt. You've added some big men now. You got Trevin, right? I think that a jumbo wing makes the most sense. There's just the easiest role to be had there. Someone who could play the 3 and the 4 split time there. Maybe a versatile guard. We talked way more than we need to, but like the Jaron Pierres of the world, that feels like a tougher sell, but that's kind of where we're at. We don't have to hash out why, because we did that for the longest while we were waiting on something to actually happen, right? What could it look like? Well, I think it could be a little bit of a waiting game here. Guys who are testing the draft waters and, are in the portal that ultimately decide, hey, you know what, I need to come back to college for a year. There's a week left, a little less than a week actually, for non-grad transfers to enter the transfer portal. Consider that, because I'm telling you right now, matter of fact, I'm guaranteeing it. There will be multiple names that will be very, very attractive to the Arkansas Razorbacks who enter the transfer portal before the deadline on the 22nd. So we might run it back and do this again, right? But we're just having a little bit of fun here today. And as we go through this, and we'll have multiple categories here, a couple of things. One, my goal is to try to not use repeat names, because some guys could fit multiple categories here. All right. Also, if I at least know where a guy is at in the process and he's narrowed his list or something, we know Arkansas is not involved, they don't have a chance, whatever, I'm just not going to list him. I'm going to pass over that particular guy. Right. And the other thing is I'm trying to go with guys you might have heard of. So household name types in college basketball, or Arkansas's played them before, or Cal's coached them before, or it's from a program that you're familiar with. So there will be a lot of guys you'll hear me talking here and you'll be like, what about so-and-so and so-and-so, especially if you're real sicko like me, like the mid-major guys, whatever. Not touching on those. I'll do that for a different day. But these are the more mainstream programs, mainstream names who would make a little bit of sense here based on what we feel like Arkansas needs. But let's get into the splash guys. Because the crazy thing about it right now is, a vast majority of the top end guys who are currently in the portal, they've already made up their mind. They're already committed somewhere. So there's not that many. If you really go look at the rankings, whether you choose 24/7 or On3 or whoever, that you could look at and be like, oh man, yeah, for sure. This guy's he's a difference, a game changer type. In fact, I only think there's 4 right now, and then one other guy that we'll talk about here real quick. Let's talk about the guys at the top end of the portal. Interestingly enough, 3 of them, and maybe the best 3, kind of fit that jumbo wing type of mold. The first one's RJ Lewis out of St. John's. And Arkansas fans, I feel like, have maybe a unfair representation of what he is as a player, because he really struggled against Arkansas in the NCAA tournament. 3 of 17 from the field. Rick Pitino benched him down the stretch. So you look at that and you're like, I don't want this dude. What are you talking about? He's a hot dog. We don't need him. No, he's good. He's really good. In fact, he was the Big East Player of the Year. That's not easy to do. Okay. Very, very talented player. 6'7", not a knockdown shooter, but you think about St. John's, you automatically think, oh, they can't shoot it. Well, he had some volume there. He was over 30%. Again, not the best part of his game, but there's something in there. He's entered the NBA draft. So him and the next 2 guys we're going to talk about in the draft, very much in the draft. College is a secondary option. Lewis is the one that I just feel has taken the draft the most seriously, because we haven't heard anything at all by way of his recruitment for college. And I also don't see really a pathway for him going back to St. John's, because it seems like that relationship was damaged when Pitino put his ass on the bench the last 5 minutes against Arkansas and they got beat. So there's that. But it's one to keep an eye on. Do I think Arkansas is going to really pursue hard here? Not necessarily. It just, to me, this one doesn't make much sense. It's going to be costly, but wouldn't it be awesome if Arkansas went out, you beat Calipari, beats Rick Pitino in the NCAA tournament, and then takes his best player for next season? Talk about a storyline. Vice would have to come do another episode of the documentary just for that. So that's one. Another guy who would be a difference maker in the portal. This one makes a lot more sense to me. Jamir Watkins out of Florida State. Wait, Florida State? Didn't Arkansas just get a guy from there? Yeah, they did. Malik Ewan. So his teammate is one of the best available players in the portal right now. Jumbo wing to the T. Average over 18 points per game at Florida State. Dynamic player, 6'7", 215. He can play the 3, can play the 4, can play the 2, whatever you need him to do. He can defend on the other end of the floor, made over 53s. Not a knockdown shooter by any means, but he's fine. He's streaky. He can make 3. It almost reminds me of Carter Knox a little bit. Knox might wind up being a better shooter than Watkins is, but his strengths lie elsewhere. But can he make 3s? Absolutely. You can't just not guard him out there. Really talented player. Visited Arkansas a couple years ago. This is not new to him. Visited Arkansas a couple years ago with Caliph Battle. They were boys. Everybody thought it was a package deal. They take KB. They pass on Watkins. They get Jeremiah Davenport instead. Oops. Right? Jamir Watkins goes to Florida State. He balls out for 2 years. Now he's available again. That is one that I would push for very hard if I was Arkansas. I mean, he should have been a Razorback a couple years ago. Familiarity there with a teammate who's coming over. You're trying to get to the NBA. John Calipari's the coach here. I mean, it makes sense there. And he's going to be a guy who's costly. Arkansas is going to have the money to deal with this type of recruitment. And there's not going to be a lot of schools out there who do when it comes down to decision time. So that's one I'm going to keep a very close eye on. Darion Williams out of Texas Tech. We've talked about it. It's like we don't have to rehash everything because I know we've done some of this before in terms of heavy hitters, right? Texas Tech, 4-man matchup nightmare, 6'5", 240-ish, strong guy. You put a guard on him, he's gonna bully ball him and back him down. You put a big on him, he's gonna drive by him because he got guard skills, can knock down threes. Buried Arkansas in the Sweet 16. Okay, another guy who's entered the portal and the draft. There was some thought that he would go back to Texas Tech, and maybe he does, but they literally just signed his clone in Lawan Watts out of Washington State. So could they play together? I guess. Do they have that much money after getting him and paying JT Toppin $4 million? I don't know. So one to keep an eye on if he becomes available there. The other one in the portal, and it's crazy, and we did an entire episode on him. It's Ian Jackson, and I was hesitant to even include him on the list here because, I mean, he's visited USC, has a great relationship with Muss. They feel like they have a chance there to land him. And as of when I'm recording this Tuesday night, he has not announced his commitment. I've heard it was going to come down pretty soon. I just had to double check to make sure. St. John's and Rick Pitino were all over him. They've been the front runner since he hit the portal, right? But he hasn't committed yet. We know the connections with Arkansas. We know that they've kicked the tires and tried to get involved there. How much, how little, we really don't know. He was nearly committed to Cal at Kentucky. He really liked Arkansas when he took his official visit before committing to North Carolina. Like, there's some things there to dots connect. And I feel like it was one that Arkansas should push very, very hard for. And could they sneak in there late? Probably not, but I just want to keep that open because I do think he's a big-time difference maker who's one of the best players available in the portal right now, and there's at least connections there. I would say, feels like maybe the least likely of all of them. Now, the fifth guy that I have, not in the portal, and not one that we have to talk about a ton, but it's Nate Ament, right? Big-time freshman, 6'10" wing, 3-point shooter, going to be I think a special type of prospect and somebody who's going to have a long career in the NBA and make a lot of money in there. The question's always been about his strength and physicality translating right away as a freshman. We know how Kyle feels about the young guys and helping those families and his high school kids and his McDonald's All-Americans. Yep, all that's there. We know the recruitment's been frustrating and, back and forth on, is he going to commit? Is he not? When's it going to happen? This date? Nope, not that date, whatever. So all that stuff applies still. We feel like Arkansas had some momentum. It was sounding positive for a while. Big shift towards Duke here recently. If I had to guess today, I'd say that's where he's headed. I think Tennessee might be a little bit ahead of Arkansas right now, but there's been a lot of fluctuation there, and we know that Cal's not going to back out until it's over for a freshman like that. So at least worth noting, and he would be a guy who would be a potential difference maker. You can't have a guy who's a lottery talent and not call him capable of that. And he would solve some issues that Arkansas has, which includes shooting, right? And that's the next category that I want to get into. We want to talk about needs for Arkansas. Shooting is still one of them. They did not address that today at all between Malik Ewan and Nick Pringle. Different roles, right? Different strengths that they bring to the table. Arkansas needs to go out and get some shooting, some proven shooting, man. They have guys who can shoot. They have guys who will make threes. They have guys who may be knockdown shooters, but you're not sure about it because they haven't done it in college yet. Can we get something here? I know it's not at the top of Cal's priority list to go out there and chuck threes like Bama, but my goodness, man, like they've just been bad at it in terms of percentage and volume for so long. Can we get something? Handful of guys who you might have heard of who would make some sense. Rylan Griffin, one, did not pan out the way that he probably hoped at Kansas this year, but still made a healthy amount of threes, and we've seen him do it in the SEC before. His sophomore season in Alabama, he really, really lit it up from three and did it at high volume. Cedric Coward out of Washington State. He's a name that I brought up for 2 years now. And this would be a high risk, high reward type. Would that be the best way to categorize it? He got off to one hell of a start at Washington State and was projected as a first round pick type of talent. 6'6", big wing, knockdown shooter, 3-and-D type of guy. Would be a great get. He tore up his shoulder like 6 or 7 games into the season And so you're looking at it and you're thinking, oh, Arkansas needs a knockdown shooter. Oh, here's one, but he's coming off of a shoulder surgery. So there's some risk involved there. But he's such an immense talent. I would take a flyer. And I say take a flyer, like he's going to be costly and coveted here in the portal. Adam Miller. The only reason I'm including Adam Miller is because Arkansas has been in contact with him. Risky, though, if we're talking about adding shooters here. Now, you'll remember him. He played at Illinois. He played at LSU. He slapped Anthony Black in the face. He was tweeting some shade at Fayetteville. Yeah, that guy. And he's been about a 30% three-point shooter over the course of his career, but he found something at Arizona State this year. Good volume, shot it over 40% from three. Are we sold that he has suddenly become a shooter, or did he just have a good year? You have to answer that question for yourself, all right? But just a name, because Arkansas's contacted him, had to make sure we included him there. Cade Tyson, I've talked about him. Played at North Carolina this year, never really made it into the rotation. It was not a good fit for him. 6'7", 215, stretch four type. Why did they bring him in? They brought him in to shoot threes. Why did they do that? Because he shot 42% on great volume at Belmont. He is a prime bounce back candidate, in my opinion. Now, he did release his initial list. Arkansas wasn't on it, but it's still very, very early there. If you decide that you want to go with a big addition elsewhere, then you might go with more of a role guy to complement TB at the 4. I still think he would be a good fit. Another one who would be is Jalen Celestine out of Baylor. Arkansas saw him this year. 6'7" stretch guy out of Baylor, 3-4 combo type of dude. Played a lot of small ball 4 for him, actually. This is a guy who is a 38% career three-point shooter and has averaged 50 makes the last 2 seasons. Qualifies, has done it in a good program under a good coach that made the NCAA tournament. Interesting, right? Sam Walters, if we're talking about stretch 4s to complement TB, would be an interesting one. Started his career at Alabama, and then he was at Michigan this past season, and he's got kind of a combination here of size and skill while also being a role player. He's averaged 12.5 minutes per game in his 2 seasons, averaged 5.2 points per game in his 2 seasons. So nothing crazy, not a commanding role there, but he's a 38.2% career three-point shooter, and he's averaging, a make per game. And maybe supplementing it in that way is the way that Arkansas could go here. So an interesting name that I haven't heard a ton about. Now, again, there are several mid-majors guys out there who stroked it this season, shot the crap out of it, over 40% three-point shooters, good volumes. I'm not going to get into all those names right now, not today. We can get into the weeds more later on that. But again, I just want to give you names that you might be familiar with, or guys who played at programs that you know today. And the other big need, so we talked about who could be the impact guys, who could be the shooters, because they got to do that. What's one of the other things missing for Arkansas right now? They got better in the front court today, but shot blocking, right? And some people in the chat, and it's good points. It's like, well, maybe you're sacrificing some in the shot blocking category, but you're going to get better on the glass, rebounding. Yep, absolutely. My argument for that is the same as always been. Why not have it all? Why do you have to sacrifice anything when John Calipari is your head coach and John Tyson is your money man? You don't. So go out there and get yourself a shot blocker. And it doesn't have to be somebody who's elite, unbelievable, incredible. No, not at all. I think you're just fine if Malik Ewan and Nick Pringle are your 1 and 2. But you can get somebody to supplement. Or you can take a flyer on somebody and you can find your shot blocking at a different position. Right? So the first name that stands out to me, and we've talked about him, so we have to go in depth, it's Ugonna Onyenso. Right? Played for Cal 2 years at Kentucky, never really took off, transferred, went to Kansas State, didn't really take off there, but he's been a career role guy. 10, 15 minutes a game, comes in, blocks a bunch of shots, 7-footer, not going to give you much offensively outside of dump offs and lobs. Okay, not super versatile anywhere else, but he is one hell of a rim protector. That kind of addition would make sense to me. I think Arkansas needs to get a third option there in the front court. I really do. A third option that's not named Trevor Brazile, by the way. So that was the first name that stood out to me. Another former Cal guy, Damian Collins, who we've talked about, a different type of rim protection, right? Because I think he would actually complement TB real well. And, at the 4, and he played a little bit of 5 at LSU. I wouldn't necessarily do that a ton at Arkansas, but he's 6'9", 200 pounds. So not the big, strong physical presence, but an elite, crazy athlete, above the rim dude, aggressive, will meet you at the rim. He finally got his opportunity to, 1, be healthy, and 2, really be in a rotation, and was in this SEC. LSU wasn't any good, but he was in this SEC that was the best conference in history of college basketball, and he averaged 1.6 blocks per game. So maybe it's a situation where you don't have much shot blocking at the 5, but you have other things that you need: physicality, toughness, rebounding, offensive skill, and you get your shot blocking at the 4, because TB might be your best in that method, and Damian Collins would be really good too. Another interesting name, Achor. You guys remember us talking about him last year? Okay. Balled out playing buckyball at Samford under Bucky McMillan. Really, really good player last year. Versatile too. Now, this is not just a shot blocker. He can score it. He could step out and shoot it a little bit. Interesting player, 6'9", 227 pounds. So he's got a little bit of size to him there as well. And he blocked 1.8 shots per game last season, or 2 seasons ago at Samford. Transferred up, wound up at Kansas State under Jerome Tang. Just didn't work out for him. Now we need to do a background check here, because he left the team early on in the season. And I don't think that there was any legal trouble or anything like that. And I'm not sure if he was a knucklehead, but I think it was like a violation of team rules. Seems like maybe something that got overblown at a bar. I really don't want to talk too much about it, because I got to go back and look. But I know it was a deal where, if I understand correctly, Jerome Tang got kind of, it's not the first instance that this has happened, but maybe got pissed off about the way the administration handled something that he felt like could have been handled internally and not been that big of a deal. Anyway, I got to go look. So you pass the background check, and then we could talk about it. But an immensely talented guy who was balling out the mid-major level, and I thought he was gonna ball out at Kansas State. It didn't work out for him. Bounce back candidate, buy low potential, just one to consider. Honestly, there really wasn't a ton in there by way of shot blocking in terms of household names or high major guys. I'm sure there are mid-major dudes out there. We'll save that for the weekend or whatever. It stinks that, like Santos Surreal never entered. I guess he still got a little bit of time here, but he would have made a lot of sense. The dude from UCF, the big man, Thiem, who we've talked about, hasn't entered yet. That would have made a lot of sense. So we'll see what the course of the next several days here until the portal closes looks like from that standpoint. But not an absolute must, but I do feel like it's something that Arkansas doesn't necessarily have enough of that they could benefit from. Shooting, to me, though, you just got to get it. If Arkansas didn't go get another stud, right, like an impact dude, and they went out and got 2 guys, maybe one guard and one stretch guy or whatever, who could just knock down threes, I'd be pleased with what they did. But anyway, there you have it. Of course, I said it was going to be a shorter episode, and here we are at almost a half hour, because I can't stop yapping. But appreciate you guys as always for tuning in. I'm glad that we finally got a little bit of excitement, some movement, some roster change in a positive direction, some additions, and I'm also glad that Arkansas now has a couple big men that they can rely on next season. Been a lot of fun. Looking forward to continuing covering it with you. Make sure you get subscribed where you need to get subscribed. Inside Arkansas YouTube channel. Find us on the podcast formats, Apple, Spotify, wherever. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time, which will be tomorrow morning, unless something pops off and we have to go live with some breaking news. See you next time.